Okay, artists, our first mini lesson here is drawing techniques. We are talking about different tricks and tips that artists use as they draw. And so we're going to fill the first page of our journal with 9 boxes that are empty, and I'm leaving room beneath each box so I can label each one with what technique we are showing in it. So we're going to be using different supplies that you're going to find later in the drawing center. So, of course, we've got a pencil, we have our crayons, and we've got colored pencils and also markers, all things that you're going to find there. So our first box I'm using a pencil here, is going to be what's called hatching. So hatching is a technique artists use to show shading. So basically what it is just lines, straight lines that go in one direction parallel to each other, close together, farther apart, but that is what hatching is. And then next to it, I'm going to pull a colored pencil here. I'm going to show what's called cross hatching. So cross hatching is a lot like hatching, except that the lines cross. So I can do, again, them really close together or a little further apart, but artists will shade things using cross-hatching as well. Okay, next I'm going with my markers here in the third box, and I'm going to show stippling. Stippling is also a technique to show shading, but instead of lines, it's little tiny dots. So again, they can be really close together or further apart, but that is just another drawing trick that sometimes artists will use, and you'll see examples of. Okay, after that, I'm grabbing the crayons here to show scumbling. Scumbling is yet another way that artists do shading, and scumbling is where we take and do little tiny circles. We can do them lighter, we can press harder for a darker value, but scumbling I actually really love to do. Okay, the next trick you're going to see is called gradation. So that's where I'm taking a crayon here, and that's where I show a different value as I go along. I press harder at first and get lighter and lighter and lighter as I go along, like I did with this blue one. I can also show that with colored pencil, pressing harder at first and then lighter to show a dark value all the way to a light value. That is gradation. Okay, next up, we are going to take the colored pencil and do some layering. So what I do first is I take one color and I lay that color down. I'm doing yellow, and then I pick a new color and lay it or draw color over top of it and see what happens. So of course, some of you know with color, if I take yellow and blue and mix them together, it should make green, and these colored pencils show that really well. I'm going to try it here with the crayons too. It always never hurts to experiment. As you can see, the crayons didn't do it as well, but the colored pencils definitely showed it the best. So you can experiment. All right, next up, bottom row, we've got our texture. So artists use tricks with different shapes, different lines to show sometimes a texture on things. So I'm just showing a few examples here of how artists might do that. So that's texture. Next up, we've got directional lines. So a lot of times if we're filling things in, maybe we're Zentangling, you might use different lines that go in different directions that follow each other. So that's what directional lines might be for you. And then finally, we've got wavy and pattern. So I'm going back to the markers here, And we know that a pattern in art is something that repeats itself over and over and over. So I might do some wavy lines that repeat. I could do a checkerboard pattern that repeats, maybe some dots, polka dots that repeat. But that's just another thing we use in drawing. So I hope you guys have a lot of fun experimenting with our different supplies at the tables.